Hi everyone, my name's Daryl. So when the RAV4 Prime was released 3 years ago, it just shocked the entire auto industry with its combination of performance and fuel efficiency. The RAV4 Prime was just simply amazing. However, since the RAV4 Prime was introduced, there have been a number of SUV plugins that either have been announced or have been refreshed. For instance, the BMW X5 plug-in was just redone and it has a lot more battery power. The Volvo XC60 was refreshed for 2023. There is the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe, which was also introduced. And finally, Mazda introduced its CX-90 on a brand new platform. So the question is, 3 years later, is the RAV4 Prime, is it still leader of the pack, or have finally the rest of the auto industry caught up? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today in this video. So I reviewed every SUV plug-in that was available as of 2023. Now, I wanted to only look at models that were available for MSRP of $80,000 or less, because that's what's eligible to be, or that's the price that in orders the vehicles to be eligible for the federal tax credit. Now, the resources that I looked at when I was looking at the data was fueleconomy.gov, which gives me the fuel economy information as well as the EV range for the vehicles. And I also looked at Car and Driver for the performance specifications. So the data that I used to rank the vehicles included the MSRP of the vehicle minus any federal tax credits that the vehicle was eligible for, the EV range of the vehicle, the hybrid gas mileage of the vehicle, which is basically after you run out of battery or after you've run out of EV range and it's just in hybrid mode, what kind of miles per gallon that you can expect. I looked at 0 to 60 time, and finally I looked at the tow rating of the vehicle. Now, there might be other factors that are important to you. These are just the things that are important to me. I did, however, create a Google spreadsheet with all the data that I collected because I really wasn't exactly sure what I was going to use. And that's going to be available in a link in the description of this video. And so feel free to pull that up as you're looking at this video to also see the data that I used. Now, I ended up looking at 14 SUVs in total. There were 4 vehicles that didn't make my top 10, and those vehicles included the Jeep Wrangler, the Audi Q5, the Lincoln Aviator, and the Hyundai Santa Fe. And when I say Hyundai Santa Fe, I'm kind of including any of the Hyundai Kia variants that use that same drivetrain. So number 10 on my list, and it's a relatively new vehicle from Dodge, it's the 2024 Dodge Hornet. Now, I don't know a whole lot about this vehicle, but I can say it has pretty impressive horsepower and torque numbers, and it actually is pretty quick. I think like at 5.6, 0 to 60. However, it can't tow very much, doesn't have great EV range, I think of 30 miles, so I'd probably pass on this one. So number 9 on my list is also a relatively new vehicle. It's the 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander. It's got a really nice kind of package and appearance to it, and it has pretty decent EV range of 38 miles, which is pretty impressive, but it can't tow very much, and also in hybrid mode, it only gets about 26 miles per gallon. So not terrible, but I'd probably move on. So number 8 on my list, and it's really a big disappointment for me, it's the 2024 Mazda CX-90. This is their flagship SUV, and it's based on their brand new platform. And Mazda really doesn't care all that much about 0 to 60 time, so it does 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds, which isn't terrible, but given its horsepower and torque numbers, that's kind of unimpressive. But the big thing that bothered me about this vehicle is it only gets 26 miles of EV range, and I'd kind of like to see at least get 30. Really, upper 30s, low 40s is really ideal for a plug-in SUV. The other big disappointment, and I watched a video on this, was it didn't do very well just in EV driving mode only. It was pretty lackluster, and yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointment. So number 7 on my list, and I kind of hesitated to put this vehicle on here, but you just can't ignore the fuel efficiency numbers. It's the Ford Escape. So it gets incredible MPG values. It gets great gas mileage when just in hybrid mode. It has great EV range. Unfortunately, the drivetrain just suffers. It doesn't have a lot of horsepower and torque. It can only tow 1,500 pounds, but I mean, it's relatively cheap, only $35,000, plus it qualifies for a $3,750 tax credit. So you're likely to get this vehicle for under $30,000. So yeah, if you are looking for kind of a bargain basement plug-in SUV and you don't really care about towing or performance, this might be the car for you. So number 6 on my list, and I kind of wish this would have made my top 5, it's the Lincoln Corsair. It's a relatively inexpensive luxury SUV. It doesn't have great horsepower and torque, so the performance isn't great, but it can still tow up to 3,000 pounds, which is pretty impressive. And so yeah, this might be one you might want to take a look at if you're looking for more of a luxurious SUV that also isn't going to break the bank. So now we're to the top 5 plug-in SUVs on my list. For the rest of these SUVs, I'm actually going to be test driving each of them, and we'll do a separate review, a separate video for each of the cars that I'm talking about here today. But today we're just going to talk about the data and how the SUVs compare on paper. So number 5 on my list is the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. Some people mistakenly call this the 4xe, but it's kind of like the 4x4, 4xe, so don't make that mistake. The Jeep Grand Cherokee has been redesigned, I think for 2022 or 2023, but the 4xe has also this new redesign, which is a lot more boxy, which I prefer, and it has a much more muscular shape, which looks just really great and has a lot better outward visibility. So the fuel efficiency numbers for the Cherokee aren't that great. It gets 26 miles of EV range and 23 miles per gallon when you're in hybrid mode. But the Jeep Grand Cherokee can go head-to-head with a number of luxury-based SUVs, and it also qualifies for a $3,750 tax credit. It also has outstanding horsepower and torque numbers, giving the Jeep Grand Cherokee the most towing capacity of vehicles in this list. It can tow up to 6,000 pounds. Number 4 on my list is the powerful 2024 BMW X5 plug-in. Now, the X5 is the most expensive vehicle on my list, but it's also the most powerful, and it's one of the quickest. What's really impressive about the X5 though is the battery. It's got a 27 or 25.7 kilowatt per hour battery on board, which gives you an impressive 40 miles of EV range. So if you can afford the X5, you could probably afford just a little bit of extra gas, and you're going to get there quicker than almost all the other cars on this list. So number 3 on my list, and this was just kind of a simple one, was the Lexus NX 450h Plus. The Lexus, it's based on the RAV4 Prime, so yeah, how can you really go wrong? It has the same exact drivetrain, but it's a little more luxurious and has different sheet metal. It's a little sleeker. But the Lexus does, however, suffer when it comes to towing, as it can only tow 2,000 pounds. Number 2 on my list is the Volvo XC60 Recharge. So Volvo has made incremental improvements in the XC60 since the current generation was introduced in 2017. For 2023, however, they updated the battery, so it now includes an 18.8 kilowatt hour battery, and it also upgraded the electric motor so that they're more powerful. These changes have resulted in a lot of the improvements that previously had maybe not really considered the XC60. So performance has always been really good on the XC60, and this one is even better now at 4.5 seconds, 0 to 60. But the big change is in the battery, and so now it can get 36 miles of EV range, which actually, puts it kind of towards the top of this list in regards to EV driving range. Looking at the numbers, I think overall, the XC60 is probably maybe the best overall performer, and it actually might challenge the RAV4 Prime and the best hybrid, plug-in hybrid SUV out there. So finally, number 1 on my list, and you probably know what this is going to be, it's the RAV4 Prime. So for 2023, Toyota made a number of changes to the RAV4. The biggest change being the multimedia system. That really needed some updating and improvements, and Toyota went ahead and fulfilled on that promise. The drivetrain on the RAV4 Prime is just amazing. It gets 302 horsepower, so it's quick, 0 to 60 in about 5.5 seconds. Also, it gets great fuel efficiency numbers, so we get well over 40 miles of EV range. It's rated for 42, and after you run out of EV range, you get 38 miles per gallon in hybrid mode. So that's it. If you are in the market for a brand new SUV plug-in hybrid, I hope this information helps you. And if you got some value from this video, please like it and also consider subscribing to my channel. By subscribing, you get notifications on all the new content, including the upcoming reviews of the top 5 plug-in hybrid SUVs. And I hope to see you again in the next one very soon.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays. Way back a year